Megan Ewing. We're back with the Think Big, Act Bold podcast, where we are focused on people who are paying attention to the next generation, trying to find creative ways to impact them and put them on a better road than they would have been without them. So today we are here with Ray and Chauncey of the Juvenile Crime Prevention Program. So first off, thank you, Ty, for connecting us, because he said, "Hey, I need to call you real quick. Is it okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, what's up?" And he's like, "I found someone, and you and him, like, you guys are just going to kick it off." And then that was, what, 3 days ago?
Yeah, you ain't waste no time.
Yeah, so I would love for you to give a full introduction of kind of who you are, just a little bit of background about the program, and then we'll dig deeper into exactly what you're doing for the youth and where you guys are going with it all.
My name is Raymond Roman. I'm the founder of the Juvenile Crime Prevention Program. I decided to create the program basically to, try to cut down on crime. It's kind of self-explanatory, juvenile crime prevention. But, we want to do what we can do to help save some lives, because I feel like, I'm a living example that we can change. And then as an adult or as a grown man, somebody needs to go back into our communities that can help some of our kids. I guess we could talk about program as we move further, and you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, Chauncey Roman, the son of this guy right here. But actually, Juvenile Crime Prevention Program was something that I brought to the big dog's attention 2-3 years ago, that we need to revive this because it's becoming a big concern in the city of Baltimore, where we're from. But not only for them, but for the youth around the world. I think it's a big thing. Honestly, just pushing for this, and just hopefully we can get some ears, open some eyes to what's really going on, and not only just doing that, but being boots on the ground with it, and just actually being in the community and being effective is my purpose here.
Yeah, I really want to, before we kind of dig deeper, commend you both, because I think you both bring a unique aspect between the stories that you've told me and then coming in with your son. So I know a lot of the situation that I'm going into with the youth.
Right.
Depending on your age, your gender, your color, depends on how you can relate to some of them. So some people will see man, he's just old head, I'm not listening to him. She's just a woman, I'm not listening to him. So you guys bring this dynamic to where it's like some of the boys that you may not be able to reach as easy, the age kind of comes in where you can. And then some of the people who are just like, man, he's young, I'm not listening to him. They can get the wisdom from you. So I think that's a really, really unique aspect. So I know a little bit about your story. So we can start with sharing a little bit about your story, or sharing a little bit about where the program has been already.
Okay, so let me back up a little bit, because when you were talking about the dynamic duo being two of us, father and son, I think that's one of the things that makes us unique. Like you said, there's different audiences that he may be able to reach, and then there's some audiences that I may be able to reach. But the Juvenile Crime Prevention Program was actually created 2011, and I didn't really get the support that I felt that I needed from Baltimore City. So I kind of put it on the shelf for a period of time, and then Chauncey came to me in the past few years and was like, look, we need to get this program back up and running because there's a need for it. To tell you a little bit about me, it's hard to tell you a little bit. It's a lot. So the reason I feel like I can relate to a lot of the young people, whether they, in the juvenile justice system or in the cities or in these different counties where a lot of crime is being committed, is because I was one of them. And I see me in a lot of them, meaning, at the age of 15, well, prior to that, I was pretty much raised in a single family home. My mother was on drugs for most of my life. May she rest in peace. So my grandmother was the one that pretty much raised me. She was a hardworking woman. But as a kid, I took advantage, and, I snuck out, and I, started getting out there into the streets. And, I started smoking weed like a lot of us do. As they say, that's the gateway drug to the next thing. And I found myself being introduced to harder drugs, and I started selling cocaine, heroin at a young age, 15, 16 years old, which over time eventually led me into other crimes. And because of my progression in the streets with crime, it led me to, become incarcerated. So violation of probation for handgun violation and some drugs, I ended up getting an 8-year sentence. So I spent 4.5, almost 5 years of my life in prison at 19 years old. So when I got out, because I was pretty much, if you want to say a model inmate, if you will, the majors and the colonels in the institutions wanted me to work with kids, so they gave me a position at Charles Hickey School. Let me back up a little bit. Prior to me getting my sentence, being out in the streets, I was rewarded by, one of the things that the streets rewarded me with was being shot 9 times. And I say that because, I say that facetiously so people understand that this is how the streets reward you, with prison and reward you with bullets. I wore a colostomy bag going in prison. I wore it in prison. I had a bullet in my chest, been shot in my face, holes in my legs. So, I didn't want to skip that part and jump too far, too fast. But when I came out of prison, I changed my life. Later on, I ended up going to college, but I started, investing in real estate. I went to work for Charles Hickey School. I left there. I went to work for the Woodburn Center. And then I reached out to one of my mentors, and I was asking him, what would be the next thing that I should do, because I was able to save some money, and I wanted to do something legitimate. And that's what really led me into furthering my real estate career. So that was, a roller coaster ride. I've been through that recession. What's that, 2008, 2009? But he always liked me to tell the positive side too.
Yeah.
I had some success in real estate. I've probably sold over 100 properties. I've owned over 50, 60 acres of land, horses, and different things that, I was able to progress or, able to do once I changed my way of thinking, like, from the street life or whatever. I guess fast forward, he came to me, the past few years and said, let's get back to this program. And I had past experience or prior experience with taking kids from the Woodburn Center. I used to take some of those kids when they used to allow us to take kids in the institutions with the, in prisons. And they had a program in Patuxent, it was called Reason Straight. Okay. So I used to take kids in the Reason Straight program. It wasn't like a scared straight. It was more, trying to reason with them and get them to understand that you don't want to live this lifestyle, being incarcerated, have your freedom taken away from you, being in a cell with another man, just giving them the real of what it's like to live inside of an institution. So one of the things I say to people, or definitely with younger people, is one of the differences in the way they make prisons nowadays and the way that they make a college campus is a barbed wire fence. See, we don't look at it that way, but if you take a barbed wire fence and a razor fence and you put it around Morgan, it looks like an institution, right? So I just tell them, I say, but you have the choice to go to college and you have a choice to go to prison, but they're going to take you to prison. That's the difference. They're going to give you a free ride.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, I said a lot, man. You might want to.
If I was going to piggyback off of that, and I think my father doesn't give himself enough credit for being.
I kind of got some of those vibes.
He don't give himself enough credit for being the guy that he is, in my opinion. Not only for me, but for family, for his friends, for his people that surround him. But I will say for myself, he was the example of what a true man is. And that was really what, deep down in my heart, why I wanted to come on this podcast and also let you know that, like, personally, like, without you, it wouldn't be no me. It wouldn't be a lot of other young men in our lives. So outside of that, you're doing that now for Juvenile Crime Prevention Program. It's just a plus. Also, I wanted to piggyback on, because he didn't mention, I got 2 older brothers.
Okay.
That's basically sentenced to damn near life in prison, 35 and 40 years. For me, I got to see those avenues. I got to get exposed to both from the streets. I seen the street life, and I also got to see the book smarts. I got to step on the football field because of this guy right here. I mean, outside of that, like you gotta be real. When you get able to see both directions, you exposed to a lot, and being exposed to see that I don't really want to do that. I want to go ahead. I want to have fun. I like my freedom. I want to enjoy life over here. So outside of that, he just was able to he taught me a lot of principles at a young age, and also his mother as well, my grandmother, taught me a lot of principles that really just helped me, to mold myself to be the man I am and make my own decisions, and also take a little bit of how he was raised and how he was grew up, and take a little bit of how my older brothers grew up, and make myself,
Yeah.
turn myself into the man I am today. So outside of that, man, I will give you gotta get your flowers when you're alive, because you know what I'm saying. So that's kind of the case. But yeah, man, this juvenile crime prevention program is really something I think that right now is just very well needed, especially in the inner city of Baltimore. But we want to grow it, and we want to grow country nationwide, hopefully, with this thing. But I think with the men that we are, I think that we gonna offer a lot to our communities, and that's just a plus. Yeah.
So I know you're in a few of the youth penitentiaries. Now, are you doing schools, or is that something that you're kind of growing into? Because I want to use my resources to figure out anywhere that you need to be. Just being around, I do the vision board events I've done in high schools, I've done in Jamaica, I've done kind of anywhere that you could think of. Where do you want to see yourself in the next 5 years, ideally, with the partnerships and things that you're building, and the ones that are going to continue to build as we bring more awareness?
I'll go wherever I'm needed as far as these kids are concerned. One of the things he didn't say is that we were fortunate enough to get him through college. So, that to me, that's awarding.
Yeah.
He said I don't give myself credit, but I'm just a humble person. I try to be humble, be meaningful. So if I can go anywhere to save some lives when it comes to these kids, to not do what I did or go through what I've gone through. And I tell the kids in the institutions, honestly, I'm really tired of seeing the prisons full of us, right? I mean, I know it's a tremendously huge business. And I say to them a lot of times when I go into the institutions that we have to learn to change the mindset, because we move like sheeps.
Yeah.
We just kind of follow the crowd. Wherever one goes, the rest go. If we can create different resources, I'll go in this. We actually are, working our way more so in the school systems. But right now, we just contractual with the state of Maryland to go into institutions.
And you say that very humbly. I'm sure there's a lot of people who would love to figure out a way to get a contract with the state of Maryland.
Right.
So that, it's huge and shows the credibility of everything that you're doing for them to bring you in, knowing that you're bringing a bigger and better resource than they have staff there. Mm-hmm. So that, that was huge.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, what I will say is, and I'm saying this because I kind of get feedback from the kids, and that is having the lived experience along with the different curriculums that we take in. We literally have curriculums that we created for financial literacy, for real estate, for beginners and young adults. So, besides them being able to relate to me in terms of the streets and the things that I've done in my past, I try to teach them something that they can take with them, right? So we had fun. The last week, we actually going tomorrow, but last week we were in Shelton Youth Detention Center.
Okay.
Right.
I was really excited to see how interactive they were, because when we first went in, it was a group of kids that was like, I don't want no parts of that, right? And then when we finally got them all together, before it was all said and done, we were kind of having fun, and we getting the message across to them. Right. But again, my biggest thing is to get them to start thinking about the things that they're doing and the decision making, because I always tell people, and that goes for adults as well, one decision in 60 seconds can change your whole life.
Oh, yeah.
Literally. You know, one bad decision can change your life and change other people's lives. So, you know, that's a thing that I kind of like start with after we do our icebreakers. But if you have some resources that, you know, can use my services, I'm on board.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know. I
I'm
mean,
on board.
just a few things that happened within the school year last year. Just in this county alone, there were shootings at the schools. And I know a lot of time it's just they don't know the resources to bring in or what's going to relate or what's going to stop it or how do you get ahead of it instead of always having to have grief counselors on deck because now we're playing catch up instead
Right.
of getting ahead of it. Where it's
Exactly.
like, man, I don't want another grief counselor or I don't want to for these kids to be numbed by like they'll see a school shooting and it's like, oh yeah, another, and it's like, no,
Right.
like that should bother you. That should
Yeah,
like hurt your
I
heart.
agree.
It should
Right.
feel weird, and it's just not anymore. And that's like the more interactions I'm having with the youth, it's like everyone they're in survival mode. So a lot, and I think a lot of the world's in survival mode. So
Yeah.
it's like you see your parents, grandparents all in survival mode, then you're in survival mode. Well, survival mode means you're just trying to make it through today.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no long-term thinking. There's no goal setting. It's just like, hey, if I get through today, good. If I get through tomorrow, good. Okay, if I pay this bill, good. Where it's like now it's kind of getting ahead, which I love what you guys are doing because even though they're already in youth detention centers, it's not like they're gone.
Yeah,
It's not
got a
like
second chance.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
a
you got another
chance,
chance.
and they just need those few people to come in and say, "Hey, like
Appreciate what
you
you
messed
got.
up.
Right.
Like take ownership over your mess up, but that's it. Look at where you went.
Right.
I mean, and look at where you're like you're just getting at the tip of the iceberg, and then anytime you get tired." You have somebody behind you that's like, no, we're not tired yet.
Right.
You know, we can't get tired. You know, we got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, I wanted to piggyback on the goal setting for JCPP. In my vision, I really think that JCPP can be not only for mentoring, but a one-stop shop for all kind of resources and partnerships, whether it's transitional housing, whether it's drug counseling, anything, you know, anything that they might need. I really think that JCPP can be a one-stop shop. Other than just crime prevention, we want to give a lot of support for, like you said, grief counseling and
Yeah.
stuff like that. That's a big part of it because whether you believe it or not, a lot of the times is because they haven't grieved correctly from things that happen in the streets. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? So that's a big part of, I think, with JCP and the goals. And like you said, hopefully he can lay back and just do the motivational speaking and we can have this thing running the shit by itself.
Autopilot.
Yeah.
At some point,
On
right?
autopilot. But right now, I love being boots on the ground, especially with him because our mission is powerful. And like you said, the dynamic duo between both of us, it makes sense. It makes sense because he was able to put me in a position where I didn't have to be in the streets. I can go get a college degree. I can go get certifications. I can go back and work for the city. Actually, I work through the Mayor's Office of Employment Development in the workforce part. So I'm able to provide those as a one-stop shop.
Yeah.
It's actually one kid from last week was actually looking forward because he said, I'm getting out in a week. I get out in a week, I'm going to come down to, it's called Youth Opportunity in Baltimore, and I'm going to make sure I come get connected with you. And that goes to show you why it's working.
Yeah.
And only take one. It only take one guy at a time. You know what I'm saying? One young lady at a time. One testimony at a time. I mean, and I just think that's the mission. Just one day at a time and keep working. So, yeah.
What are some challenges that you're seeing working with the youth? The challenge I noticed, like I said, was the long-term thinking.
Right.
So that's when I come in and I do my goal setting and vision boards because for them, especially in the camp in Jamaica, they had never heard of a vision board. They had never done goal setting. And so I had a few questions when we started the vision board there. And I'm like, okay, how many people have heard of a vision board? 60 kids, no one raised their hand.
Right.
How many have set goals? Maybe a few like half hands. And then the founder of the foundation was like, okay, how many people have lost either a best friend or a family member to murder? 60 kids raised their hands.
Wow.
So they're used to this, but they're not used to thinking long term. So I'm curious of certain things that you see where it's like, man, if we could really address this issue with our youth, this will get ahead of whether it's anger, whether it's dealing with emotions, whether it's like finding an outlet, whether it's sports, boxing. What are you guys kind of seeing when you're there working with them?
I think building trust with them first and foremost, you know, because a lot of them, you know, they come from unstable homes.
Okay.
And then when you talk about helping kids or, you know, working with kids, you can't forget that, you know, a lot of the parents are really either irresponsible parents or immature parents that basically advocate a lot of the negative behavior.
Right.
Because nowadays, you know, you have kids that may use drugs and the parents might use drugs with them.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So you trying to tell a child or you trying to correct somebody's child that's going to go back into the environment where everything
normal.
that they want to do is the norm. So, you know, when you say, you know, you're trying to get ahead of it and being proactive, and then also a lot of us, a different age bracket, we don't want to deal with them. We really want to avoid them. So it's only a few of us, realistically. A lot of people say we want to help kids, you know, and you work with kids in different capacities. But these troubled youth, you have to have some thick skin, and you have to be, you know, prepared for whatever they may offer you, because it's not going to always be peaches and cream with some of these kids. Some of these kids literally have, you know, charges where they may be charged, looking forward to being charged as adults. That's what the mother just said to me today. She called me and she said, my son was arrested for a handgun. How can you guys help him? And he's in the juvenile system waiting for a hearing to possibly be charged as an adult, right? So my first thought was like, where's his father? Okay, so you know, I want to actually put out a video or something that's saying to the fathers that aren't with the mother that you still have a child to raise. So because you're not with his moms, you still have a responsibility to help with this boy, right? So, I mean, it gets so complex when it comes to dealing with kids, because we talk about the unstable homes, you know, the drug use, the single parents or single family homes, right? And their different experiences, because each one of them have different experiences. Some of them may have been abused, right? So it's really complex, because we, like he was saying, we even talked about that in terms of how we can partner up or possibly have a system where if kids are coming out of a facility or they on probation per se, where is he gonna live? How stable is his household when he come home? Does he have to go to this, or he or she has to go to the same neighborhood that they got arrested in, right? So when you say, you know, being ahead of some of these things, it really takes community. And then a lot of us aren't coming together, like you said, meaning different programs to use our strengths. If you have housing, that'll help. If you have a educational piece that can teach them some sort of trade or different things of that nature, we have to figure out how we're going to structure it better for them. Because we're telling them, don't do this or don't sell drugs or don't do that, but we don't have any alternatives for them.
Right.
So they saying, like, you telling me don't hustle,
right?
But they've never seen anything different.
Right. Like, this is all I know. So, yeah, it's get complex.
No, I was going to piggyback on you, because that is the main thing for me, and that's just my mission, like, for everything right now is exposure. Like, that is the biggest challenge. Trying to get them, one, to trust you, but know that I got love and genuine enough to show you that this is okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna expose you to this. This is okay, brother. Like, sis, this is okay. It's okay to try to learn how to put a resume together. It's okay to listen to this workshop to somebody you might not know, but that's trying to give you some real game and some real feedback. It's okay for that. And it, like, for instance, like a big part of the community now, like, college is not pushed in the inner city as much as it is supposed to be. But for me, that's a big part of me. And I think that whether you believe it or not, it might be hard, it might look hard, but let's go try. Let's go see the environment. Let's go spread your wings a little bit.
Yeah.
And trade school, everything, whatever route you want to go, let's just expose you to it now, because that way you can see it's an option. You know, not just going that direction. It's also an option to do this. There's also an option to start your own business. There's also an option to host your own workshops. To do, I mean, it's just exposure. And a lot of times, a lot of kids I meet nowadays, especially from the 18 to 24-year-old age, they haven't been outside of Baltimore, or they haven't been outside of Maryland, or they haven't had the chance to go travel and see the world, to understand that it's a goal that you can get to go stretch your wings a little bit, to go see the rest of this world. And then it might not be here. Your foundation might not always be here, but you got help here and you got resources here that can honestly get you where you want to go. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think the mindset is the biggest thing. Is you're trying to break through, and even if it's a 14-year-old boy,
Right.
you're still breaking through 14 years of a life that now you're coming in and telling him, hey, it's okay to feel your trauma.
Exactly.
It's okay to be above your trauma. It's okay to move past it. And he's like, what do you know? Like, it's not trauma. This is life. This is, my boy goes through the same thing.
Right.
My friend goes through the same thing.
Right.
So who are you? So I think it speaks highly to have the patience to kind of go through and break that down. And I'm sure a lot of kids are harder than others. I hope it gets easier to break that trust, because as soon as the trust is kind of given, then it just opens up. Right. And I think going repetitive to where it's like a lot of people, what I've noticed with like the youth engagements, it'll be like, oh, I'll show up to a school, I'll do a school assembly or something, and then that's it. And then you leave. And okay, the school paid you, brought you out, you did this, you motivated them for an hour, but they're still stuck. What's the follow up?
Right.
Because now, for the people who related to you and trusted you, all you showed them was, okay, I did it, got my paycheck, and left, and not coming back.
Yeah.
Well, now you just told them the same thing that's happened all throughout their life.
Right.
You're doing the same thing.
Right.
So I think even like when you guys said you're going back tomorrow, where it's like them just seeing a familiar face and knowing like, hey, everyone's in survival mode. Yeah. You're going through your own stuff. You're going through your own stuff. But if we can set aside a little bit of time for them just to show like, hey, you matter. Like,
exactly. Well, you know, to piggyback on what you're saying, you know, a lot of these kids never really had consistency in their lives. So in order to build trust, that consistency helps, you know, because in order to get them to trust you, and especially to be vulnerable to you, right? I look at it like most of these kids just need some love.
Yeah.
That's where it starts. Like literally, you know, once you can get them to trust you, you'll realize like they need a hug just like anybody else. But they can't trust nobody. They haven't been able to trust nobody because, like you say, they're in a defensive mode, you know, where it's like, I gotta preserve me. So there's a wall that you have to penetrate. And that takes some consistency. I'm coming back. I'll be here. When I say I'm going to do a certain thing for you, I'm going to show up. Because normally you're accustomed to somebody lying to you or just, you know, doing whatever it is they need to do for a period of time and then they disappear out of your life, right? So I think that's a part of building that trust, that consistency. If I give you my word, this is what we're going to do. And I'm going to live up to my word. So you teach them in essence, too, that means something.
Yeah.
You know, when you give your word on certain things that, you know, you live up to it, that's a part of being responsible. Because what I always say is, if I can't trust your word, I can't trust you.
100%.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to lie to me, you're going to tell me a certain thing and then you don't do it, how can I trust you? Right? So that's a big thing with those kids. But one of the things that we did last week was I try to always get them to challenge themselves or use their minds in subtle ways. A friend of mine will say, and if he ever see this, he'll say, yeah, I took his term. And he said, we got the medicine, but sometimes you got to give it to him in candy.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, that's what I try to do. Subtly, you know, give them what they need, as subtle as I can, but, you know, teach them along the way, right? And, I mean, it's a challenge out here because the kids today aren't the same kids when I grew up.
No, and they grow up faster.
Oh, man.
That's what the exposure piece.
Yeah.
They're exposed to way more negative things than they are positive things,
right.
And that comes from this thing called your phone and social media. And some people, like, it's a lot of kids that I like today, like I work with, that if they just channel that energy, they got so much potential. They just channel it in the right direction. Like it was a kid we met last week that I said the same thing about in the institution. If he'd have channeled that energy somewhere else, you could blow this world up, man. You could have so much. Like, it's just the channeling, man. Trying to get them to shift that mindset. That's another challenge. But outside of that, man, just hopefully we can do that for them guys and be an example for them. That's just the plan. So, yeah.
What are some of the challenges you guys are dealing with as far as growing the program?
Well, it's always, I don't make it sound like that, but it's always an issue with, getting any funding. So I tell, people that that's one of the things that you have to have a way to have funding to even service these kids. Like, whether you got to go to another state or you got to go to different facilities, and then some of the professional help that they need, right? This all, requires funding. So we're going to try to see different ways that we can get help and funding as far as the program. But in order to expand the program, we have to have funding. So we're realizing some of the pieces that we need to put into the puzzle, the housing, the educating, and, different pieces. But it goes back to where we're getting funding now.
Yeah.
I mean, I got to say it like it is. It's not about the funding, but it is about the funding.
Yeah.
Because if we can't get the funding, we really can't, maneuver and do the things that they need. They need services, right? So we're doing our best, and even without the funding, we're going to put the groundwork in until we get to that point. So we're not going to disappoint, showing up for these kids. Like you said, if there's some resources, we'll volunteer. We'll go out. I do volunteer stuff all the time. But I know to grow us, we need funding. We need, different programs to come together so we can grow together, because they need a lot of services, not just what we do. This is one small piece.
Right.
Honestly, this is just a small piece of the services that they need,
And what if they received it all? Imagine the person that they are after spending time with both of you is one person.
Right.
And then if you added one more resource on and one more resource on, and I think that's it's like everything looks pretty on social media.
Yeah, exactly.
You have a contract with the state of Maryland. You are being invited into these institutions. And the same when I was doing like the vision boards, they were like, well, you went to Jamaica and you did this. And I'm like, do you understand that I served 350 youth in Harford County this year, self-funded, because of the same issues? And it does get exhausting explaining your purpose, explaining your why, just to get someone to say, like, you know what, we will get behind it. And I think I have like the same mentality as you, like whether it's my pocket or somebody else's pocket, like I'm on a mission, I'm not stopping.
Exactly.
But it doesn't negate the fact that at night it's like, okay, I got to figure out raising my family and raising money for this because the sport isn't coming behind it. So I know funding is like, it's just a huge issue, and I don't know that there's a set solution for it other than, hey, let's just keep talking about it, keep getting the messages out, and show there's resources out here that are going to stop a lot of children from going from the youth detention centers to the adult, and stop from leaving high school to go into the youth. Like, we can watch the stories and see how things are progressing and kind of fit in there when it's needed and early enough.
Yeah, and I also will say, the community, meaning, the schools, the churches. I mean, a lot of these institutions, they get funding for different purposes, but we can use space in some cases, like, to bring kids to hold events like this. So, I mean, it's a collaboration. Like, when you talk about, I mean, we say that all the time, it takes a village to raise a child, but it really takes villages to raise these children. And now we've lost so many, it's almost like we're trying to play catch up.
Yeah.
And we only 3 individuals that's in this field. Shout out to the coaches and the other mentors and people that are doing this, because they don't get enough credibility for doing this type of work. And there's so many kids that need us. It's sad.
Yeah.
Like, literally, from the institutions in these schools nowadays, out on these streets. I know some programs that won't even address the streets, because they're afraid of the kids. And I'll be honest, some of the kids are dangerous in these streets nowadays. So, so if you can't just go down Pennsylvania Avenue and think it's okay.
I mean, that's why I said, like, there's a limit on things. And I think that's why it takes the villages, because there are certain things I will never be able to accomplish or relate to certain people. Having the dynamics to know, like, some people, I think they'll get into, especially, and it might be youth, it might be nonprofit, and they think, well, I can do it all. Well, sometimes you have to sit back and realize there's a portion you can't do.
Exactly.
So find the other people that can do that.
Right.
Find the other people that can narrate that message better than you could ever, even if you tried.
Right.
So, I mean, that's part of the goal with the podcast is opening people up to like, hey, you can't do it all, but why don't try? Like,
Exactly.
if
Know
you
your
have,
limitations.
yeah,
Yeah, we all have limits, you know.
So I know if y'all have been seeing, and I'm just speak for the city of Baltimore, that we are right now at the lowest we've been in a long time through the Mayor Scott, right? But how do we keep this momentum going is by putting this, not only funding, but resources around all of these kids that really need it and just keep this momentum flowing. And I don't see how we don't get the lower and lower and lower if we just keep it flowing and keep it going, man. So hopefully we can
And he
get all the
stated,
resources we need.
like very clearly that it was through community partnerships.
Exactly.
It wasn't through federal funding. It wasn't through anything else. It was
Exactly.
through the boots on the ground that have a heart and a passion for this that made a huge difference.
Right.
And still doesn't get the respect that it deserves.
Yeah.
You know, I sometimes I ask myself that question because I hear it a lot. You know, I want to be involved with kids. I would like to do what you're doing. But, you know, I ask myself sometimes, how sincere are people really when it comes to really wanting to help until something happens in their backyard? You know, as long as the crime and things are happening away from you, you know, you just hear it and you become immune to it, like that's the norm. But then when it hits your backyard, then you want to react, you know, after the fact and say, oh, well, we need to do something about this, right? When the problem, you know, it exists and we know it exists, right? So, you know, what do we do to address some of these issues? And, you know, can we come together and package it in a way that we just, you know, doing a little bit of work at a time? So that's what we're going to do until things grow and we can partner up with different entities. We're going to go in these facilities, we're going to go into schools, and we're going to talk to the parents and do the best that we can do, you know, for what we have.
Yeah.
You know, so I really appreciate this, to be honest with you, because people will see it and say, okay, maybe they want to get behind that movement, because when you put things on social media, of course it exposes you a lot more.
Yep.
Right? And then there are people out there that want to help, because that's why we're here today. Because, you know, somebody saw it, Ty saw it, and say, y'all need to come together, right? And I've had a few other programs contact us since seeing the last video that we did, and they say they want to collaborate. But I'm going to say this to y'all. Don't just, you know, say you want to do it. Put your money where your mouth is and show up, you know, because I've had to address a few different executives and tell them, like, you know, be professional. If you say you're going to do things, you know, I'm going to hold you to it.
And if it's not financially, come out and volunteer.
Right.
Come out and be another body in the room.
Right.
And that brings where it's like, hey, some people don't want to volunteer. They don't want to be in the environments. Okay, well then send us a check.
Right.
Okay, I don't have a check to send. Okay, feel free to volunteer. Or share
volunteer,
something, or acknowledge it, or connect me with someone who does.
Right.
And you know, it doesn't take much to support initiatives that are really, like, at the end of the day, saving the world.
Exactly. Before we keep going, I want to, because another guy I want to give his flowers to, because we keep talking about him, and you introduced him earlier, and he was on the podcast. Yeah. But Tyrone, man, and he knows from the bottom of my heart, that's my guy. I love him to death. But he's one of those guys that no matter what, he's going to come support. If it's pushing for the youth, he's going to come show out. He's going to come have fun. We did host homeless giveaways together. We did the basketball tournaments. We did the whole nine. So it's one of those things where that little small initiative that he push is what we all do. But to have it from Baltimore City all the way up to Harford County is just love. That's really where it comes from. And being authentic and genuine. And that's one of the guys that you don't even have to question, because he's going to put everything on his shoulders, and he's going to troop through to make sure he give back to his community. And that's the same thing we doing.
And smile and not complain. And
not complain at all. He going to call, bro, I need this. I need a couple $100. All right, come on, we got it. We're going to make sure we get it done. So that's my man. And then forever. And that's why we want to keep this tight knit, because for guys like him that just doing it off of the whim, without, like you said, no funding, nobody behind him, it's worth more. Honestly, sometimes it is. But at the end of the day, when we get somebody that wants to see this grow, wants to see us blow up, we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna blow the world up, man. It's no stopping us.
Ty was one of the first people when I started speaking again that invited me to come to talk to the basketball team. I guess that's been a few months, but I had did other presentations, but when I told him what I was trying to do, he set it up immediately, like, come talk to my basketball guys. So they had practice in Harford County. So that was one of the videos originally that we did when we first got back to doing.
Started our momentum, exactly.
Yeah, Ty was. When I said, let me come talk to them kids, and he got me right in there. So that was a good look. Yeah. If I can say it, can I give some shout outs to
you can say whatever you like. This is your time.
Like Coach Calvin Ford, is working with kids. Some of us don't really get the recognition for working with kids, so he do more than Coach Tank, by the way. Josh, nephew, he coached at Upton Gym as well with the kids. There was a few people, Anthony, Mr. Hudgens, how you say Anthony?
Yeah,
Hudgens. He working with kids in Southwest Alliance.
Right.
If it's anybody I'm forgetting right now, forgive me.
I'm gonna give one shout out to my colleague, Mr. Frank, Mr. Andre Frank. He has a mentoring program called Boys to Men, and he's doing some big things as well. So we gonna collab with him as well, hopefully down the line.
What's Mr. Ron program from PG?
Man,
Collaborative Black Men or something. But just if you're working with kids and you doing something to help in the community with these young people. Shout out to y'all, point blank, period. If I forget your name, forgive me. All right. With DJS, what's that? The Choice program. We just talked a few days ago as well. Can't remember everybody.
You'll remember it after like 3 hours.
That's how it is. You forgot to say us on there, right?
But guys, that's on the same mission. Shout out to you guys.
Yeah, for sure. Shout out to you guys. Whether you're in Baltimore or in any other state, as far as that go, the prison doctor and these different guys that's helping out in our community. Shout out to all of y'all. And hopefully we can collaborate at some points from state to state and help, some shape, form, or fashion with these kids.
What's a impact story that's kind of touched you, and you can have two separate ones if you want, just an impact story where you were like, I'm doing exactly what I'm meant to be doing because of this experience?
You want to respond?
Oh man, there's a few, but I would say the one that comes to mind is a young man, actually this summer, that I had the pleasure of being a part of a program that I was running. I didn't expect him to make it through. I honestly didn't. I really just didn't. And then there was one thing that made me realize he came out with something on his resume. He came out with a cover letter. He came out talking more professional, having a professional email. He came out communicating better. It just was one of those things that enlightened me, and it goes to show you that not only, but even though he's still doing the things that he does in the streets, he can see the vision. And that was just recently. So I'm just going to be recent with it. Of course, plethora of things through the past, but recently that was one of those things. And this is one guy that that's in a lot of trouble. He's done a lot of things, but he also can see that this ain't going to last for long. I need to shift gears a little bit. To be honest, it was one of those moments for me where it was like I already knew I was doing this. This is my purpose. This is my passion. But at the same time, I'm only 27 years old, and they look at me like I'm an uncle, So it's certain things that, like, they look at me like I got a lot of guidance, I got a lot of wisdom, but that come from taking in a lot of the energy from my OGs or my big brothers and a lot of the wisdom that I already had. But I tried to collect that when I was at 16. So now I'm able to pass it on at 27 easier, and they're able to listen to me because it's not only just that, it's the maturity level to it as well. But sitting down with them guys and knowing that we can make this work. We can apply to job applications. We can do whatever you want. Just come sit down for 10, 15 minutes a day. Just come talk. We can come chop it up about whatever you want to talk about. But you just know, like he said, the trust and the love is genuine, number one. And number two, I'm gonna hold you accountable. You know what I mean? You're gonna say you're gonna do something. Okay, let's do it. If you're gonna tell me you want to get a job, all right, let's do that. If you're gonna tell me you want to stop smoking or do whatever. Let's find the goals to get there. You know what I mean? Or you want to go to college, find the goals to get there one step at a time. Yeah, so
It's a lot for me.
I'm sure.
Yeah, because I was just thinking about Josh, the coach that I was just talking about. He coached some of the kids at the Upton Gym, and right now, to me, he's like the prodigy of Calvin. He gonna be the next big thing, the next big coach, because he coach, he teach the younger kids boxing. He came to me one time and he said, because of you, I decided to move and get a new home. And he said, when I came to your house, they was out my house one time and I wasn't there. And he said, when he came out there and he saw that, the way that I was living, it expanded his way of thinking. So, that was just something that I always kind of, keep in the back of my mind. He don't know how that affected me, but it really did. And I watched the way he lived now. So, he told me last night, he said, yeah, Uncle, I'm inviting you to the house for the fight, so come down my house, right? But
and that probably felt really good for him to say.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, he always say, you don't need no RSVP to come to the house, right? So yeah, on a positive note, that was one. But sadly, like he said, what impacts me as well is, I got two boys that I raised. They both incarcerated for murder. One of them is in for 35 years. He's sentenced to 35 years. And the other one is sentenced to 40 years. And the one that's sentenced to 40 years, he's been in since he was 19. And he's been in 20 years. So he's a success story. But they made some mistakes. And I feel like, as a representative between him and them, that impacted me. And I just feel like I have to be a better example, because I know I can't save the world, but I also realize what's realistic, and their bad decisions is costing our kids, 20, 30, 40 years of their lives. So that impacts me. If I can say to some of these kids in these institutions, that impacts me when I go in there and we go into a pod or we go into a unit and I see 20 young men that has the potential to be in prison in the next few years. If I can go in there and say to them, let's not graduate from here to there. You can have a second chance. Most of them have a second chance because, they haven't received that kind of time or those kind of sentences.
Yeah.
And like he said last week, it was a kid that asked me.
I was going to talk about that too.
He said to me, how was I able to put my ego aside and transition from liking to make fast money to making legitimate money? And what does that process look like? So things like that, when I gotta sit there and try to explain to him, the better way to change your life, right? That impacts me because it says to me, I gotta sharpen myself to be able to have the right answers for these kids sincerely, because some of them, they really want to do right. Sincerely, they want to do right, but they just don't have a roadmap.
Right.
Yeah.
So, as an adult, or, they call us uncle when we get older and all that kind of stuff, right? You got to have some answers for these kids that they can, live by and say, well, let me try it that way.
Right.
Yeah.
Because that was a shock to me when he said that. He said, he received an insurance policy. He brought his mom's a house, moved from D.C. to Baltimore. He's been selling drugs since he was 12 years old, so that's all he knew.
Yeah.
He went from making fragrances, trees or whatever, he said, some sort of fragrance, to marijuana, to hard drugs. So, I can relate. So I said, well, you have a work ethic. It's obvious.
Right.
You intelligent, right? So you had to channel that energy, because the same way you learn how to use a scale, right? I just give it to him real. You can learn how to have a skill, or, whatever it is that you really want to do, but you got to put that energy into something else that's positive that you want to do. But we were talking about real estate particularly. It's a lot that impacts me, because if you look on YouTube nowadays, you can literally see these kids in prisons. I just watched a special last night. I know it was at least 20 or 30 of them, and they had knives, and they running around, in the jails, getting high, You know, they got cell phones and all. I don't know if I'm supposed to say all that, but yeah, it's just sad to me because I've been there and I know what it's like to lose your freedom, not be able to go in your own refrigerator. I know what it's like to be in a cell with a man and you saying, well, I gotta wait for him to leave out if I can, so I can use the bathroom in private, or I can use the toilet privately, right? So, you know, I don't know so much, impact me in my own life. Like I said, I've been through the grinder and spit back out. So, yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot to consume. But all I know is that I have a lot to offer them.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah. I mean,
I think it's safe to say you guys are changing the world, whether it's you go in and speak to 20 kids and reach one.
Right.
I used to get frustrated where it's like, I want to reach everybody. So if I'm in a room of 30 kids, I'm going to reach everyone.
Right.
But you forget about the ripple effect of if you just reach one, they're going to tell someone else.
Exactly.
Or they're going to share a skill that they learned from you. So understanding the ripple effect really helped me give myself a little more grace.
Right.
I want to really go into what do you need if the world is watching and it's like, hey, here's where 5 years from now, so 2030, where's the organization at? How many states? How many countries? What is, like, do you have like impact number of how many youth you want to reach? What does 5 years look like for you guys? And then how do we support it? How does somebody watching that's like, oh, wait, that's exactly what I need. How can they get behind it, whether they can volunteer, whether it's a resource, whether it's, hey, we're always accepting checks, just reach out.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
If I had to give anything that we need, to be honest, you give us the opportunity, I know we're going to come in and make something happen. I think that, of course, we need a team. We want to have a bigger team. But one day, right now, I feel like purposely, like I don't want to say we do everything. We can do everything, in my opinion. We can host workshops. We can be mentors. Yeah. We can set up curriculums. But not only that, I do feel like he said, the funding and just giving us the opportunity to come in there and talk to these kids and talk to whoever. We're going to spread the word. I think to be honest, that's the big part of it, just the opportunity. Now, of course, I want to see us to have 1,500, 2,000 members. Of course, that's going to come. I think that's going to come just off of the authenticity that we had. But yeah, volunteering, helping out, pushing the word out. Juvenile crime prevention, like I said, it's not going to just be, I think, for the city of Baltimore. It's going to be for a worldwide thing eventually. So just the opportunity to come do what we do. And I think that's going to be a plus. Yeah.
Well, what I'm going to say is, we need your support in whatever way you can support us. We building a website right now, and the site is going to, cost me money monthly to run the site. So the small things matter, so you'll be able to go to JCPP soon and donate. We need to support, whether it be help structuring the program. We're going to need support with transportation. We need professionals that's willing to volunteer because we can't do it all. Mm-hmm. So we're willing to partner up. If you see things that may be helpful to us in our program, then include it. I know we're going to get some negative feedback in some cases. Everybody not going to love us. So we expect that and we're going to accept that. But for those of y'all that really want to support, we're going to need support because we start from ground up. Point blank period. We doing it. Boots on the ground, as we say, right? From building the website, transportation, educators. In some cases, we may need doctors, nurses, at some point to help us with the psychological issues that some of these kids are having. So just, we want to be a one-stop shop, but right now, we building. So, I'm going to just say any positive support that you can give us, we need it. Mm-hmm. We know what it takes to help these kids, whether it be buildings or location, housing, right? Whether it be materials that we're going to use to help them work. Like we're going to be doing things like production. So if we can have some sort of sponsorship, like they giving the other programs, cameras, mics, they giving the kids, iPads and stuff like that. So we create like competitive situations where what they call it, the gamification.
Okay.
So we have kids compete, and when they win, they may get earbuds, right? So whatever that we can, get support from whatever capacity. We need help. I mean, it is what it is. We're gonna do our best. We're gonna go in the systems. We're gonna go in the streets, and we're gonna do our best. But if you can support us, JCPP, we on our way.
And high schools, middle schools?
High school, middle school, college, churches.
10 to 21.
Okay.
We'll come to the house.
Okay.
I mean, I talked to the young lady a couple days ago, and her son was literally in her house around the corner acting a fool. 17 years old. She's sitting in her truck crying to me saying, she was sitting in the parking lot of a supermarket. I say, what's going on? I say, you look like he just put 10 years on you. She say, I can't take it no more. So I said, well, where's his father, right? That was the best solution I could give, because I said, like, I can't go to your house and this kid, that he don't know me.
Right.
And
you haven't earned that trust.
Yeah, so you can't just take me around there and had me address that issue. But literally, she said he had just, disrespected her because she wouldn't buy him a certain thing for school. He's 17 years old, strong, young guy. Say he pushed me in the closet and closed the door and things of that nature. And I was hurt. I felt like, I just felt some kind of way, because these kids are to a point where, disrespecting your mother, to me, is one of the lowest things you can do, right? So I really wanted to go with her and choke him, to be honest with you. But she called me later, and I checked on her. She spent some time out of the house because she really was, like, afraid to go home.
Yeah.
And she said, well, I did what you said, dude. And he not here. His father came and must have taken him out for a little while. So I checked on her again the following day. And she was like, I'm better today, but I'm not buying him that stuff. I say, well, they got him to a point where he's so spoiled that he feel like he's supposed to have, these name brand sneakers and name brand clothes for school, or he gonna act out on his mother, right? So that's why I said earlier to some of these fathers, like, even though you're not with the mother, you still gotta help raise these boys, because it's sad to hear a woman come to me and say, I'm sitting in the parking lot right now because I can't go home. I don't want to go home. So
and luckily you were available.
Yeah,
and
I went right to her. I wasn't far away, fortunately. Yeah, so, I went right to her, talked to her. And then today, something like that, that's young lady, she reached out to me on Facebook, asked me to give her a call. So I called today, and she told me about her son, but he's already incarcerated. But I mean, like I say, if it's some things we can do that's helpful, that's voluntarily, we'll do it. As long as it's within our reach and within our jurisdiction, and we're not breaking no laws, right? Yeah. So we're willing to help. However,
and I like that you shared that story. And I won't go super deep into it, but these are the things that people don't realize. Like, when you're asking for funding for your initiative, that doesn't include what you're doing. There's a lot of people who wouldn't have taken that call, or would have taken the call and then just been like, I don't know, call the police, and, washed their hands and moved on from it. So the time and energy that you're putting outside of even everything else that you're doing in certain institutions, that's stuff that, you'll never see a penny for. And I can tell you, like, you're not worried about it. Like, you're doing it because of your heart, but to fund the program allows for you to be a bigger resource for so many more people. And I think people don't see that part, where it's like there's so much back end stuff that it's hard to show, where it's like, I don't know many people who would have answered the call and then followed up once, followed up twice, and then just been completely honest. Like, hey, here's my solution, and this is what I think, and take it or leave it. But you could have went and tried to deal with it, and who knows where that would have went for you. So I think it speaks highly of your character, and I think the program's going to take off. I think it's just a little more exposure, and it's needed. Like, how many things can you save the youth from by you guys getting in just a little bit earlier than someone else, a little bit earlier than the cop who arrests them.
Right.
Like if you snuck in a day before, how does that change that road for them?
Yeah.
You know, it's funny you say that because she actually had told me that she had called the police on him before. So this wasn't the first incident that occurred. And I was hot. I'm be honest with you. I'm being cool right now. But I felt like, let's go around here so I can straighten him out for you, right? But, you know, of course, I know that's not the right thing to do. I don't want to be on the other side of the wall as well. But I just say this, I'm hoping that in 5 years that there's a lot more guys like him, the younger guys that can take this and run with it. So, you know, my initiative is to spark some of these younger guys because we have his friends and some of my nephews that are intelligent enough that want to do this kind of stuff. You know, I'm getting older, but I think somebody has to spark the fire and say, this is what we need to do. And then in our communities, honestly, not to put nobody down, but I don't see where it's a lot of us black men, and I'm going to put that out there for what it is, that's really serious about pushing back. You know, pushing back from what we consider as the norm now. A lot of the things that we see has become normal. I had a doctor tell me that we normalize this stuff. Like even when he talked to me about my story, and I told him, I said, you know, I've been shot 9 times and, you know, the drug life, and I was telling him all those kind of things that I had been through in my past. And he said, you sit here and talk about it like it's normal. He said, it's not normal, right? And I felt like, what are you saying, I'm crazy or something? But he was basically saying that, you know, we learn to cope with things that shouldn't be. It shouldn't exist, right? So a lot of these kids, you know, their norm is, you know, a lot of destruction, a lot of hurt, a lot of pain, but they learn to live with it, and it becomes their daily life, right? So we have to push back and say, this is not normal. You have to be able to figure out how to change this way of thinking, because the masses of them, their norm is destructive. Point blank period. Like he said earlier, and I made a video that says that, you know, whoever leading you guys, can we talk to them about, you know, making it cool again to go to school? Can we talk to them about, you know, making it cool to get a GED, or making it cool again to go get a skill, right?
Yeah.
You know, just making it cool to be respectful again. Like, you know, because nowadays it's everything is destructive, from the profanity up to the gang stuff, and you know, it's a lot of destruction in our communities. And the sad thing is, it's bleeding over the country. And just for the record, our president just talked about signing a bill where you teenagers are going to be charged as adults and get sentenced as adults. So 14, 15 years old for these crimes that you committing now, he's signing a bill that you can go to prison for 40, 50 years just like adults now. So don't think you're going to get a slap on the hand for some of these things that y'all doing. And don't say I didn't tell y'all. Straight up. Yeah, he just talked about that recently, right? Signing a bill to hold, you know, teenagers accountable as adults.
And it's scary because I think one of the big issues is we're not taught how to deal with emotions. So it's, no, adults are talking, go do this, or no, just figure it out. And it's like the feelings are pushed aside so much that you don't realize, like, some people can handle pushing their feelings aside. Other people, it digs and digs and digs, and then it becomes violent. Well, if there isn't rec centers, and there aren't camps, and there aren't boxing, and there isn't these resources for them to deal with emotions, what do you expect a 14, 15-year-old? Like, there's nothing left for them to do. And then mentally, they're not, at 14 and 15, you're not thinking like an adult. You're not thinking...
Nowhere near.
I mean, even in 20s, like, you're still trying to figure life out.
Exactly.
So putting that pressure on them to be like, no, you should know your decisions at 14 is like, what were you doing at 14? Like, no.
Their brains aren't even developed.
Right.
You know, they're very immature. A lot of followers. I mean, let's be clear. You know, a young man's brain technically doesn't develop fully till he's 25 years old. And some of them not developed fully with the childish stuff that they do.
Yeah.
So, you know, kids don't have the opportunity to be kids no more.
Yeah, that's a big one right there.
You got some of these young men that's in their household, and because they sell drugs or they hustle, however, they help them to pay some of the bills or bring some food in the house.
Yep.
Right? So, you know, you have to look at the family structure, and a lot of them, again, you know, are single family homes with the mother just raising them and the father who knows where, right? But at the end of the day, you know, we just got to do our part.
Yeah.
And even, you know, with putting out podcasts like this, I'm talking to the fathers and I'm talking to the mothers and not just the kids, because we all need some help and you know, some assistance with changing the morality, the morals and principles, you know, the rules that, you know, we should be abiding by in our households. We don't abide by a lot of these rules no more. You know, there is no rules in some cases. Right. So that's why I say, for me, to anybody, that when you say, you know, what would I say? We need help. And in a lot of different capacities, we need help, right?
Well, I want to thank you guys for coming on. I'm excited to see what the next 5 years brings. The impact that you're having now is already out there seen, and it's only going to keep getting bigger. It's only going to keep spreading, and hopefully we can get more volunteers behind you, more funding, and then more opportunities just for you to connect with the youth, because one person in a room can change the whole dynamic of a school, of a grade level, of kind of anywhere that you walk into.
Right.
So,
well,
any last words of where they can follow you, where they can find you? I know you said the website is coming up soon.
Yeah.
But if you want to drop your Instagrams, then feel free so they can follow along.
Mine is C Roman XVII, which is 27 in Roman numerals, and as well as the website is jcppservices.org. You can go, and it's under construction, but it will be up very soon. So you can go and donate. It tells you all about us, our story, and as well as what we have to offer and program and everything that's coming along. Raymond Roman official _ because I know I'm running the social medias, but you can follow us on Facebook, TikTok, JCPP social media will be up and running soon. And we'll be connected to the website as well. But stay tuned. We shoot more content. Hopefully with this, we're going to have some more content with the podcast as well. And yeah, we're going to be rocking and rolling from there.
Yeah, so if you are schools, organizations, camps, anything that has any dynamic with the youth, let's save them before it's too late.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, let me add to that.
Yeah.
You know, you will be able to go on the website and set bookings with us, or, you know, just connect with us.
Exactly.
But also, you said the youth, and that's correct. Young adults or men groups that need us to attend, you know, we're willing to come out because we need more men involved.
Exactly.
Right?
Okay.
And it's not an ethnicity thing. It doesn't matter if you white, black, Hispanic. We need men to get involved, you know, for the presence of that manliness, or however you want to say it. Like, you know, we need more men involved. And women as well, because you got the young ladies, but particularly our movement, we need to get more men involved.
Yeah.
We need to have these type of environments where we can sit down and discuss plans as to what's the directions that we need to go in to address a lot of our issues, right? You know, because I don't have all the answers.
All right, so you have all the contact. I will drop it in the description. Thank you guys for joining. Make sure you are getting behind and supporting everything that you have going on.